Mike, turn your games down.
Hi everyone, to another movie episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who are you going to call with me tonight?
I am Tiffany Albertin. That's it.
Plug your podcast, Tiffany.
No.
You can plug this show for me on other shows, but...
Mike does that enough for himself.
Okay.
There's never plug enough for you.
I am Adam. I am one of the co-hosts of the You Hate to See It podcast, where it's three best friends get very drunk and say stupid things to each other.
Well, that's why I make things for you.
No, for that show, yes, but it's been a bit. I've been on that show. And thank you for joining us. It's been a little bit since we had you on, Adam, so I'm glad you're going to come back on.
It's a pleasure, as always.
And we are here to talk about a movie that is only on here because when I Googled what Christmas movies aren't Christmas movies, this came up. We are here to talk about Ghostbusters 2, which came out in 1989, which feels...
You were just a baby.
I was. I was born in 87.
I definitely remember this movie coming out as I was born in 1996.
Shut up, all of you. I hate all of you.
So I had not seen this movie in years before this past week when I watched it twice. I had no memory whatsoever of Ghostbusters 2 other than I knew of Vigo. And I realized as we're watching this, like, I do not remember anything about this film.
I really remembered more than I thought because I started quoting lines and I was like, oh, this is the part where this happens.
I mean, really, basically, if you don't know the plot of Ghostbusters 2, if you remember anything about the plot from Ghostbusters 1 or the all-female reboot Ghostbusters, you know the exact plots of Ghostbusters 2 because those are the same movie 3 times.
I've never seen the 2016 one yet.
I haven't either.
Well, you know the plot to it.
Oh, well, we do now. There you go, Mike.
You know, I'm okay with this plot. Like, I'm all right with, like, I like the idea that it's... So I find it very weird, like, when this movie first starts off, it says 5 years later. It doesn't show a scene from the first movie. It doesn't show... It just says 5 years later. I'm like, what? Like, what? It just confused me. It just seems very strange.
A lot that they leave, like, that they didn't tell us. They didn't tell us that the city, like, put stuff against them. They can't, like, fight ghosts.
Didn't pay them.
Yeah, didn't pay him, and then they stuck him with all the bills. They didn't tell us that. They didn't tell us Dana was married. They didn't tell us. We had to figure all that out first.
You think some of that would have been in there before the 5 years later, not just 5 years later? I don't know, just weird to me.
There's a thing in film writing where it's like, how much do you pretend your audience is an idiot, and how much do you pretend like your audience can catch up on using context clues? And I feel like this movie couldn't figure that out.
No, it really threw me off a lot in that beginning. For some reason, it just, like, I'm okay with the fact that, like, because you know, very early in this movie, you see them, you know, driving the Ecto-1, and then you find out that, you know, they're going to a thing, like, oh, how many are there?
It's fine that it's 5 years later, but you're like, what? They're doing a kids' party? The fuck just happened in 5 years that they're doing a kids' party? Like, they went down that fast? Where'd all the ghosts go?
It's not, I'm like, it's not like ghosts aren't around.
Yeah.
I just felt like there should have been more context or something, or maybe just like, you know what? Let's do the Star Wars. Let's just have scrolling text. Something to tell me what happened.
A little flashback or something. Teeny tiny.
Yeah, plus,
30-second flashback.
I mean, this movie is 5 years later after the first movie got released. Like, you need to have a thing that says 5 years later, not just, hey, guess what real time happened?
Yeah, I feel like the only time you should put 5 years later is if you have something at the beginning of the movie that, like, is like, hey, this is happening. Oh, and now 5 years after this. Like,
yeah, like if they would have had the painting somehow was affected when they fight Zool, and, you know, all that happened, the painting's affected, then it goes 5 years later to show you, then that would have worked. But it's like, it would just really threw me off for some reason.
I would have liked if it was somehow connected to the first one.
Yeah, that's...
It really was.
Not at all.
Maybe there's just like a quick shot of the painting getting covered in marshmallow fluff. And then...
You know what? I could have taken anything. It could have been something like because...
Or that Zool... Wait, is Zool a he or she?
It's whatever.
Zool is a they.
They. Okay, like they would have mentioned, Vigo, blah, 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 or something.
Or something. Or the other guy who had to do with the architect that I cannot remember his name that designed the building that they used to call Zool.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it's in the game. It's referenced in Afterlife, but I can't remember the name. But and there being something like that was there to tie it all together. I mean, that would have worked too. It just it feels weird to me that this, because everything else Ghostbusters that we get after this, I can't speak 2016, but the game, which I can speak to, and Afterlife all kind of wrap into the stuff with Zool and that architect. And this movie is such a standalone adventure.
Yeah,
you don't need to see the first movie for this.
Yeah, this is one of those you can go from Ghostbusters 1 to Ghostbusters Afterlife and you'll be fine. You know what you know.
I mean, that's kind of what I did.
The only connection, did he have that shop?
No, because
that's the only connection to Afterlife.
Yes. He's raised in the occult bookstore.
Yeah, he has the same occult shop, and I didn't remember that. He has the same occult shop Ray does in Ghostbusters 2 that he does in Afterlife. Do we need to say spoiler?
Nah, not that.
A spoiler for a movie that's been out for 2 years.
Okay, well, spoilers.
Yeah, that's not much of a spoiler. I mean, there's much more things that are spoilerish in that movie. But...
Yeah.
And this came out in 89.
I didn't realize that until I walked in, and I immediately recognized it, but Mike didn't recognize it until I said something.
No, not at all.
I was like, oh, that's that same shop.
It's also, I feel like I don't like seeing them down and out either. I would have, that kind of bothers me because, the movie starts off and they're just they're all done. The Ghostbusters are over. I mean, Ernie Hudson, Winston is just doing whatever else. They don't even show what his job is.
Ray's off.
I mean, Ray running a cult bookstore because Ray is Dan Aykroyd also is nuts. So I mean, I'm completely by that part.
Egon's doing experiments.
I do like that part.
Let's take the puppy away and see what happens now.
I really like that. I thought that was hilarious.
I remembered that, and Mike's like, "What? They're gonna take the puppy away?"
Yeah, I've never been a fan of the movies that the first one is all about them getting together and them learning how to work as a team. And then the second one, within the first 10 minutes of the movie, they split the team up again. And the whole movie is them getting together and learning how to work as a team.
Yeah, it was just kind of I just don't like them being so, because so much of this movie is them being down and out. And even when they get back together.
Kind of the same.
Yeah.
Peter's doing his supernatural thing, except it's on TV. And,
yeah. Peter is one joke away from a whole slew of sexual assault charges.
That's a good way to
the
put it.
first and the second one.
Yeah.
The first one was worse.
I completely forgot that he had a TV show. I mean, so it's not a big part of this movie. I completely had no remembrance of that at all, and that is not referenced anywhere else.
I mean, you shouldn't reference it anywhere else, honestly.
I mean, it was just weird to me. Maybe in the late 80s, early 90s, there were more random, weird-ass TV shows like that. For me, that was just super strange. How was this on the air?
On there, she, covered up the fact she had an affair with her husband to say that an alien told her when the world was going to end.
That was funny.
That was the best part ever. I met him at a hotel and went to his room.
It must have been a mind control device. I wouldn't go by myself. No. Okay, that was funny. It was just, I don't know. I don't really care for Bill Murray. I keep finding the more movies I watch of Bill Murray, the more I really don't like Bill Murray.
Bill Murray's hit or miss for me. I think he's great in the first Ghostbusters, terrible in the second Ghostbusters, love him in Stripes, hate him in a lot of things.
He plays himself in every movie, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
He was good in What About Bob?
I've never seen Stripes.
Stripes is so good.
That's good. What?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
A lot, but I never got around to it.
That's it. I'm on divorce right now. Let's go.
There's a lot of 80, 90 movies I've missed. It's just never got around to. But that's on my list someday. One of my weird issues with this movie is shortly after, when the ghosts do come back and they end up getting back in business again, everything is 2. All their advertisements are, because it's Ghostbusters 2, and it bothered me for some weird reason. Just use the same logo. Why are you changing logo just because you're back in business?
I mean, you gotta sell those toys.
Right?
No.
That's probably why it was like that, to sell toys.
Oh, it 100% was. It just, for some reason, it threw me off.
Because you can't have another little, whatever the car is called, if it doesn't have a 2 on it, because they already have the one where the ghost is just there. If the ghost isn't like making the peace sign,
I don't know.
then they can't get a new one.
It just really irritated me, like in the sign and everything. I understand like from a physical standpoint when it comes to toys and things like that, but for some reason in this movie, it's like maybe I don't know. It bugged me. And
it was super fast. Like after the courtroom, suddenly everything was shiny and new, and they had all these jobs, and the car was working perfect. And the building looked better, and their phone was ringing off the hook. I was like, "Whew, that was fast."
Yeah, because all the ghosts saw that and was like, "Hey, we gotta get back on this." Like,
I didn't really get that either. Like the whole because you have all the slime. Like you think somebody would have noticed the slime, somebody working underneath the city, or somebody somewhere had been like, "There's a lot of weird shit down there."
Hold on, it's New York.
And they referenced several times that it was abandoned.
Yeah, but. I never been
also, no one cares because they live in New York.
They referenced several times that New Yorkers don't care.
And New York shitty. I mean, hey, New York was really shitty. I think it's the 70s when it's really shitty.
Yeah, well, they're like, wow, there's weird pink slime on the roads, but also I just saw Spider-Man jerking off in Times Square. Like what? Like it's New York.
Yeah, that's accurate. I guess. I'm good friends with a New Yorkers on the show quite often, or used to be in New York, and he'll tell me stories about that place sometimes. Bill lived in New York for a while.
He does?
Yeah, so I always get him to make jokes about whenever you see people's apartments in New York. I'm like, well, how expensive is that apartment, Bill? And he'll be like,
about $3,000 a month.
Or more. But, okay, I mean, this movie, as a sequel, I think is has some interesting points. Like, I like the fact that it brings back a lot of characters. Like you bring back Sigourney Weaver, even though, I love her in this movie. I love her in almost any movie, but it felt like, it was just weird having her in here. Like, they found a way to kind of, shoehorn her in when I think they could have done it better. Shoehorn. I think that's what I want to say.
Sound like you said shoehorn. Stop calling me a whore!
But, I mean,
damn it!
It just felt weird to me, because it's like, Tiff, you had mentioned earlier, it could have been, Bill Murray's baby that they could have had instead of... That would have made more sense in the story.
Yeah.
Because her husband's just gone. He left.
It's not her husband's baby. It's some guy in between that they reference maybe once or twice. And he does say, I could have been your father. And I'm like, well, why the fuck weren't you?
That was weird.
And she made some sort of line when you started calling me the ball and chain is when I left. Why? I don't understand. That's a reason to leave? Because you're a ball and chain?
I mean, he's insulting her, so I get it.
Did you know that the baby was played by John Denver's twin nephews?
I think now that you said that, I did, but I had forgotten.
That's cool. Strange, but cool.
Yeah.
I mean, you need a baby. I guess you just someone that's famous. Hey, you need a kid? Here you go. You can have this kid. Yeah. We got 2 of them.
Yeah.
Okay. I also found the whole a lot of what leads up to the plot in this movie is them, they get the slime, ends up touching the carriage, and then the carriage runs away, and then, in the right after the 5 years later, immediately after, you see slime come out.
A little bit.
Yeah, and that's what leads to all that. And I was thinking that at first there was going to be some more connection to Vigo, and that Vigo had more to do with the slime, and then that's why he wants that baby, not because his weird buddy's like, I want her as my wife! All right, we'll take the baby then. That's the whole plot of that.
Because Vigo said, I need a baby, and he's pretty much like, oh, I know someone who has a baby. That was it.
And I want to sleep with her, too, so we'll take her baby, and then I can be her husband.
Powerful Hungarian accent.
Yes, I know.
I think that's what that was.
It was.
Hungarian, right?
Yeah.
Be Hungarian.
It's.
They never say it. They say, Peter says, where are you from? He says, the Upper East Side.
I think it's supposed to be Hungarian. I thought there was a comment somewhere Hungarian. I feel like there was.
I know. So I know the actor is German, but then his voice was redubbed by some voice actor, and I don't know. I remember that
Wait, that's not his voice?
No, that's not the actor's voice. The actor didn't know that he was being redubbed until he saw the movie at the premiere.
But he doesn't have a German accent in real life.
The actor?
Does he?
I don't know. I just know he's a German actor.
Oh,
But
I
yeah,
didn't realize he's been in a lot of stuff. I didn't realize he was German, I guess.
Yeah, but they redubbed his voice and they never told him.
That's kind of a shit move.
Yeah.
Not kind of. That's a shit move. Like
I blame Bill Murray, honestly.
Probably.
Yeah, Bill Murray probably had a lot of pull, I'm assuming, at this time.
Well, Bill Murray doesn't like sequels, so they had to give him a lot of money just to do this movie.
And pray he showed up.
Because he just wouldn't show up sometimes.
I saw that when we were, because in the Netflix show Movies That Made Us, they talk about that. We're like, yeah, he didn't sign the contract, so we didn't know if he was going to come or not.
Yeah, and then he just like show up one day and be like, yeah, I'm here to shoot. Oh, you haven't even signed the contract yet, Bill.
That's just strange.
I feel like at that point you like rewrite the script or have like some floating ideas around of like, we're shooting X on X day, and if Bill doesn't show up, he's out like of that scene or whatever, and we just fix it. Like we edit around it or find something, and you should have basically had to be way less important to the plot than what he ended up being.
Yeah, you think you have someone that you can't trust that's going to make it, that you're not going to have your whole movie based that much around that actor, then if you can't trust them.
Yeah.
To, do what you're paying them to do.
Then he was that hot. If he was in your movie did.
I guess.
That's why they did that.
One thing that kind of bugged me in this movie is like, so after they get the slime and they find the slime, and then like their whole plan is just start drilling in the middle of the street. Just bring up fake construction crew somehow.
It's my favorite part.
Get all this equipment and just start drilling. Like, I'm assuming there's other ways to get underground. As they show later on, like, you think there'd been some other way, like, we'll go underground. Not
There'd have to be like a manhole. They could just crawl down.
Yeah, something. Why don't you just start drilling a hole?
Because that's where their little gigameters or whatever they were, like, went.
Or how easy it was to get that far underneath the city. You drill one hole and all of a sudden you're all the way underground like that.
They didn't drill very far.
No.
He's like, oh, look, it goes for miles. Okay, Ray, you're up. Let's go.
That just seemed weird to me.
And then he like bumps what looks like a pipe and blacks out the entire city. What?
New York for you, I guess.
I mean, the fact that the whole plot of the movie centered around this magic sludge that when you put it on the Statue of Liberty, she gets up and walks around was...
Yeah, I remember that was a point in this movie, but I didn't remember how stupid of a plot point it was until we rewatched the film.
So dumb. This whole movie's just dumb.
Yeah.
And they're like trying to get New Yorkers to sing, and I'm like, this is not really a good song to sing to. Like, I mean, I don't know how to explain it. It's a catchy song and everything, but it's not that easy to sing to because it jumps around and it's fast and...
Yeah, the music choice in this movie is weird. Like, it starts off with the Ghostbusters theme song. They only play a little bit of it, and then it comes in like, they're trying to...
Like a rap.
Yeah, new song, which again makes sense because it is, late 80s, early 90s, so I mean...
Stick with what works.
But it's just like, to me, I'm like, I don't like this new song at all. Yeah. Like, you can't... The Ghostbusters theme song's a classic song that, even to this day, is still great. Like, just go with that.
Who are you gonna call?
Like, why are you doing this weird... other song that just like you're trying to like sell. It felt like you're trying to sell CDs or tapes, whatever the hell it wasn't at that point. I think it would have been CDs, right? 89?
No,
I can't remember.
This is back when you still had to just sing the songs in public to share the music. This is.
Yeah, you had to record them off the radio onto a cassette.
Well,
That's how
you could have bought cassettes.
I remember when I was really young, when I had my first cell phone, my handy dandy flip phone, to get a new ringtone, I would wait for a song to play on the radio and then record it on my phone to use as my ringtone. So if I coughed during the song, you would hear that in my ringtone.
Oh, that's funny.
I'll stick with where we are now. Technology. I also found another thing I found to me it was like a little bit odd how they went with it. Like, you get introduced to Dana pretty early in this movie, Sigourney Weaver. But, how much she doesn't want anything to do with Venkman, and all of a sudden Venkman just shows up at her apartment, follows him along, and is being a complete weirdo.
He is legitimately one bad joke away from sexual assault charges. Like,
but
I mean,
for some reason that seems to turn her on. So hey, here we go.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I also didn't really care for the one joke where they're like, I want to do a gynecology exam on the mother.
I'm like, what? Does he know what that word means?
It felt like people were stupid and like you can't Google. There's another word at one point where, what did he say? You looked it up, Tiff.
Yeah, it meant like the back of his penis or something. I was like, what is that? Mike was like, I don't know.
It was like,
I don't know, but I'm laughing.
Yeah, so I had to look it up because they all thought it was hilarious, and Egon had a dirty look on his face. So I was like, oh.
Yeah, it just also felt weird that it was Egon making some of those jokes. Like it felt out of place for Egon.
Yeah,
I like that.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, there were. I mean, because again, it really did feel like you're making jokes that the audience won't know what you're talking about, so you're not worried about a higher rating or things like that because they can't Google it. They'd have to literally go out and grab a dictionary.
Well, yeah, I know because the cartoon came out after the first movie, and I know the cartoon was like a huge hit for Saturday morning cartoons with kids. So they probably like really, really tried to keep this movie within a certain rating because all their audience was children.
So they had to have hidden sexual jokes?
I mean, SpongeBob does too, to be fair.
All kids shows do.
Yeah. But they're more hidden.
Parents interested.
This was just words that you just didn't know what it meant and couldn't look up.
This is also 89 though, so like kids were smoking crack and doing cocaine and having sex and smoking weed. Like this is, and it's New York. Like,
yeah, I guess that really does play a big part. Oh, there were just a lot of things that, like the way that Bill Murray is in this, and I just didn't like any of it with how he reacts to Dana, especially early on. Just because, I mean, again, I've said this before in real life all the time. Like, there's a thin line between being a creep and being charming. It all depends how the person looking at you feels, and like that's
it all depends on what you look like.
It's he kind of crossed it a couple of times. Like he would go back and forth, be like charming, and then be like, "Oh, there's a creep."
Yeah, well, like we also, like, throughout the whole thing, like, have to pretend like Bill Murray is, like, the hottest sex gods in the world, and it's fucking Bill Murray. Like,
right?
I don't think...
he's never been attractive.
We're over here pretending that he's, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's Bill Murray. Like...
Yeah, that's another thing I found weird. Like, the guy is not good looking. I mean, like, I don't understand where you're going with this.
Yeah, he's over here pulling Ripley, like...
Yeah.
It's just, they do some odd stuff. Like, also, like, when it comes, like, the slime, when they're in the courtroom, and the whole reason why they even get out of prison, even get away from going to prison, because the judge starts yelling at them while he's sentencing them that the slime activates. But I was watching, when I rewatched the movie the second time, he's yelling earlier, the slime doesn't do anything until the very end when they start yelling. Because they're yelling before that part, and the slime does nothing. It isn't until it's small. But there's a part where, like, they kind of, like, brief past the slime, but everybody's yelling. And you think if the other yelling affected it in the other mood, you think this would affect the slime too, but it only is affected when the plot wants it to be.
Are you talking about when they fall in the room?
No, when they're in the courtroom. I was also confused, like, not until later.
No, it does. It twitches.
Okay.
The whole time it twitches. Like, every time he raises his voice, just a little bit.
Okay.
You just didn't pay attention.
Maybe I'll have to watch it a third time.
Okay. Yeah, every time somebody yells it's usually the judge. When the judge raises his voice, it twitches.
Okay.
It just must really hate the judge.
Well, I also found that odd, like, as the scene progresses, you have these two ghosts that come out of the slime. I mean, and I was still, like, I watched the movie twice, I was trying to figure out, did they come from the traps? Were they already there? Or since they were killed because of him, they already were in the... Like, I didn't understand what the logic was behind that, if there was any. None. It was just plot. The movie had a plot.
Well, so I just was looking up, like, if there was, like, any weird things, like facts or stuff with the movies, and probably part of the reason why this movie feels so off kilter is one of the things is the original script was written by Aykroyd, and it was supposed to be set in Scotland and include fairies. And it got rewritten multiple times to what we got, and even still what we got wasn't what was written, because the last 25 minutes of the film was 100% reshot within 4 months of the film releasing.
So that would be all the Statue of Liberty stuff then.
Yeah.
I wonder what was what was before.
I don't, but I'm just, it's so like the Statue of Liberty, the ghost train, and the photography darkroom scene were all
I like the ghost train.
reshot in the last within 4 months of the film's release, and then a few days after this film released, Batman got released. So real rough time to be Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, because I mean, Batman '89 is such a huge movie and takes
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, it made money. The budget was 30 to 40 million, it says, and it made 215. But I don't think they weren't happy with how it did. Apparently, is what I was reading on here. But I don't know all the details with that.
They made their money back.
Yeah, but movies are weird what they expect. Oh, it made less money than the first movie. That was the issue.
That was it.
Yeah.
Oh, boo fucking boo.
But then when you release your movie right before Batman '89, I mean, that's what happened.
Yeah, well, and also, like, making your money back as a movie is... So, the studios only have to report what they actually spent on the movie. They don't have to report what they spent on marketing. So, a good rule is whatever they report the movie cost, double it, because that's how much marketing costs, generally, for all the editing and commercials and posters and stuff. So... a movie has to make more than double what they spent on.
I mean, in this case, it still does, because...
Could have made more, Stupid Batman.
I don't know. So if it hadn't gone up against Batman, do you think it would have made more?
Yeah, I do. I think also would have been remembered more fondly.
I also think Bill Murray probably will have not been an asshole about returning for a third movie until after Harold Ramis died.
Yeah, because Bill Murray's a shithead.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, he is how he is in all of his movies. He plays the same character in all of his goddamn movies.
Oh yeah, no, a lot of actors I feel like kind of play themselves.
Yeah.
We talked about one of them before we started recording.
Yeah.
He plays himself in every movie apparently and can't lose in a fight.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Which I did not know. So not a fact for this movie, but something I will definitely remember.
Yeah.
Oh, another thing that I wanted to bring up, like about the court scene. I thought the court scene was good. I just was confused how that jumpstart all the ghost things. But that's fine. Like I also don't like that. I feel like Ernie Hudson should have been more in, like, they kind of cut him out in this movie too for the first part. I don't get why. He's a good actor. I mean, I like Ernie Hudson a lot.
It's the 80s and he's a minority. That's what happened in the 80s. If you weren't a straight white man, you weren't allowed to be in movies.
Yeah, it's unfortunately very true.
Unless you were Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy or Sigourney Weaver. Like, those were the exceptions.
Yeah, because I mean, out of the I really like Ernie Hudson as an actor. I mean, I don't know much, but I like him in the Ghostbusters stuff.
He's hilarious.
I mean, I would have rather had more of him and less Bill Murray in this movie.
100%.
I mean,
have Dana fall in love with Ernie Hudson.
I mean, Dan Aykroyd is nuts.
I just saw that.
But
that would have been great.
It's fine. I mean, I'm okay with him being nuts because I know he's kind of nuts in real life. So he plays the character great.
Yeah. Pretty
much, yeah. I mean, he's all into the occult. So, like, I really enjoyed the fact that the occult bookstore is from this movie. I had no memory of it, but I really liked that.
I did.
Yeah.
Until they walked in, and I was like, hey, wait a second. It looked exactly the same, except a little more rundown.
Yeah.
Or a little newer, I guess, in this one.
Yeah. I mean, it was also just kind of cool. I mean, I got a weird vibe, like, when the guy that walks out of the store, which, again, I'm sure wasn't heading because it didn't happen yet. It reminded me of the Corinthian from Sandman, the guy with the sunglasses that just walks out the store that bought a book. That's what I thought of. But that's what it reminded me of for some reason. I don't know. I mean, and I also thought it was like, I liked when they had the commercials and you see them on TV and all that stuff. One big question I have about this movie, which it never really answers me, is how long does this movie really take place? Like from like when it starts to when it ends? Because we know it ends at New Year's, but like I don't like how much time passed. You see, at one point Ernie Hudson's wearing a Santa hat, so you know it's December. But like, does this whole movie take place in 1 month or less? Like,
no, because before with the kids' party, it doesn't look like.
Okay.
So I would say it's probably.
Plus, court isn't that fast. I'm assuming to get your court, they'll just leave you in prison.
Yeah, I would say maybe like at the earliest, this movie starts in like August.
Okay. I mean, small thing, but it was something that...
Because the little kids, none of them, well, they're inside, but they're all dressed in light. They don't have sweaters or anything on. The little
Yeah.
kids have...
Oh, okay, I didn't catch that, but okay. I mean, and I also thought it was weird that they were dancing to their own song. I don't know, it just...
He-Man, He-Man. Who you gonna call? He-Man.
That was kind of funny, actually. I'm not a He-Man fan, but it fits the time.
All the He-Man jokes were because the same animation studio that made He-Man was the animators of the Ghostbusters cartoon.
Oh!
That's funny.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I had the toys, though. I can tell you that. It sold me toys.
Why is he blonde?
I got nothing. But it's a good. I remember liking the real Ghostbusters, but I haven't seen it in so many years, so I can't remember.
I've watched a couple episodes because I found them online somewhere, and it was fine.
It was fun.
That's not something you can always say about old cartoons when you go back. Because I've tried that, and some are not good.
Yeah.
I never watched that cartoon. I never will. So that was
Which
different.
cartoon?
Beetlejuice.
Oh yeah, no, I'll never
yeah.
taint that.
We tried.
We tried a couple episodes that were free with the movie.
They were bad. And then some of the stuff with the slime was just like how much slime they had, because like, you know, when you see like the stuff with the Statue of Liberty near the end of this movie, like they must have had a ton of slime.
Like, where did they get that from? Did they just go down and stock up, or what?
That's what I'm guessing, that we just never see it. Oh, and you brought up another scene earlier that I want to go back to. I really like the darkroom scene. I felt like that was in a different movie than this movie, because it's not a comical scene. I mean, they almost get burned to death.
Yeah.
And it destroys all the evidence to make them, you know, to show like, hey, these guys are crazy, because there's no evidence. Like, but it doesn't fit in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I liked it, but it also, like, Vigo's powers, like, change a lot. Like, you don't really... Like, I feel like Vigo really doesn't do a whole lot in this movie.
Well, I mean, the scene probably makes no sense because it was shot within 4 months of the film's release.
Yeah.
And they needed to get from point A to point B.
I mean, that seems like that's really cutting it close, especially for a special effects movie.
Yeah, like, and back then, yeah, like, back when they're still, like, actually cutting film.
Yeah.
Like, that's such a fast turnaround. Like, you say the CGI artists are overworked today. Like, what the hell?
I mean, plus with that, I mean, I'm sure there was a decent amount of runtime that you needed ahead of time to get the film produced, to get it shipped out. Like,
yeah,
you know, that's really cutting it close.
Yeah, because this isn't like where you can send an email with the file like you can today. Like,
yeah, we're here. Just click this and download this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was just something that I found that was okay. That's just really weird to me. All right, and then another thing that I want to bring up, I'm just looking at my note. Like the whole toaster scene felt like it was only there for one reason, like just to show what they could do with the slime, that they can make things move.
I feel like most of it was like, I think they came up with like, hey, we want to have Statue of Liberty dancing and walking around. Like, how do we get from point A to point B? Like, what do we have to set up? And that's probably why like the Vigo's powers were changing and stuff, and the slime was weird because they were just like, like what's cool? Now let's tie it together. Not well.
And that was probably a cheap way to do it.
Yeah.
It would be easy to make that toaster hop around.
Yeah, and probably cheaper too. I don't know, I just feel like I could have done without the Statue of Liberty walking in general, because all thing went through my brain is like, you couldn't think of some other way to represent New York than getting a giant statue to ruin your city as it walks and destroys all your streets.
And the people were like, yeah!
Like, there should have been a scene of it crushing through the city because of all the plumbing and everything else, and just falling apart, and, you know. Because I feel like that might have been over the weight limit of what the city could handle, you know?
Well, especially with all the potholes and stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, this was just in that weird time, though, when, like, the first one was popular, let's remake it, and put number 2 on the end of it. Like, that's all all of these movies were, except the ones that, like, really broke ground, like the Indiana Jones franchise, or Aliens, or, like, the Bill and Ted's. Like, those were, like, only a few movies, like, didn't do the exact same thing in the second one as they did the first. But
okay. Yeah, I mean, I forget that movies do that a lot. And I mean, also, it feels weird to me that this movie's 5 years late. Like, again, like, it took them 5 years to make a sequel. It seems kind of like you're not coasting off the energy you should be coasting off.
Again, Scotland and fairies. They...
Avatar shouldn't have a sequel, even though I know it just came out at the time of recording this.
And then another two words, Boondock Saints.
Okay, yeah, you're right. That shouldn't have a sequel either. I mean, I could probably keep going with more movies, but yeah, it's just.
I'm not dissing one of my favorite movies, but Boondock Saints.
Oh no, I also wish I would have been like a small scene to somehow cue more in like the whole stuff with Vigo. Like all of a sudden, the whole plot of that is they brought this painting out of storage, and then now he's infecting people. Now he's trying to take over.
And he gave like there's a random scene where he like zaps Janosch, and then suddenly Janosch has all these powers. Like he goes and kidnaps the baby.
Where he turns into like a ghost monster.
And I'm like, this is so weird. Like, where did he get all these powers?
Yeah, that was super strange to me. I didn't. Oh, and we were talking about earlier that actor. The only thing that I recognized that actor from was he's in a random episode of Big Bang Theory where he plays a nut in a cabin. No, I haven't.
He was in Addams Family. He was in the
Which Addams Family? The movie?
Whichever one the one with Christina Ricci, and whichever one she goes to camp. Is that the first one?
Second one, I think.
It's definitely the movie. I didn't know if you were talking about the TV show, the black and white TV show, or not.
Yes, so it's
because that's my Addams Family.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it's the Christina Ricci movies. I can't remember. I think it's the first one where she goes to camp. He's a counselor.
It's just everything with Vigo to me. It just felt very odd. Like the only guy he takes over is Giannis. Yet we can see that he kind of like confuses Ray a couple times. I mean, the very end he takes over Ray, but like throughout this movie, there's one small scene where he like starts to almost possess. Like Ray goes into a daze, but then that again doesn't really pay off either. Like it's just
they're setting that up for when he possesses Ray.
That was just.
They have little setups throughout. You just gotta pay attention.
I was, but I didn't like it.
Okay, that's not my fault.
I also didn't like how all the slime is just flowing to the museum, and that's the whole like plot of everything. Oh, the slime's all going right here.
And then it gets like encased in a big slime ball.
Yeah, that reminded me of Parasite Eve, but which comes out many years later. I don't know. It just. And then the stuff with the mayor, like the mayor's assistant, that I can't remember that actor's name, but I know he's in tons of stuff in the 80s and 90s, and he always plays like a bad guy. I feel like he does. He's in Wayne's World also. I can't remember. I don't know his name. I know you know what I'm talking about, Adam, right? That bald. I think he's bald.
Yeah. I can see his face. Yeah,
he's a very big character actor that you just see in random. I mean, you see him in a lot of random stuff. It just. And I mean, I do like how he ends up having them thrown into a psych ward because they're being because they threaten to blackmail the mayor essentially.
And Peter's just like, I don't know I think these guys are nuts. I don't know why I'm here.
Oh, and just like this, as I mentioned earlier, just like this movie does, where we just don't have a character for part of the movie because we don't care about him. We have a special guest that joined us. That was my joke. I just wanted to throw. I don't like it. I really like. Well, I also met Ernie Hudson, so that's why I also really like Ernie Hudson.
Shut up! I hate you.
He came to my work once. Just randomly, he just came into my work. I worked at a FedEx, and I was like, oh, and I was helping him do whatever. He was printing something, but it was just funny. Yeah, my wife was mad at me.
This is the fifth Ghostbuster Caruso, Kerry Chandler. Sorry I'm late.
It's really not okay.
Welcome.
I'm just glad I record this all in one spot and don't do multiple tracks. I don't have to piece it together.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, really sorry.
Oh, you're all good. I'm just glad you made it, Kerry.
Yeah. So we were talking about them getting. Well, yeah, no, y'all do it. Y'all go.
We've just been kind of jumping around with the movie, talking about all the different scenes and everything. So, I mean, anything you want to bring up, feel free to, we'll take, get your take on stuff.
Well, I agree with you. I love Winston, and I'm sad that he's only in half the movie. He seems like he's an afterthought in this one.
We gotta make room for sex offenders.
Yeah, we were saying that our favorite parts were every part that Bill Murray sexually assaults and harasses women, and that we don't see it problematic at all. And
they're just like, oh, he's so hot. Like, I think it's amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of odd stuff. Oh, one joke that I'm assuming was the New York joke when Venkman, they have the baby over at the apartment and he doesn't have any diapers, so he wraps him in a jet sweater.
Yeah,
I'm assuming it's supposed to be a joke that the Jets suck, even when you're a New Yorker. But
I don't know. I mean he was just saying like this was given to me by a girl, so don't mess with it. I didn't think about it.
Yeah, but like, when it's a baby and you wrap it around, it's gonna get full of shit.
It's gonna get full of shit. So I never thought that he could be raped. Jets is it?
It's a football team, but I feel like it's not a. I don't know in the 80s if it's like. I know like when I got into football in the mid 2000s, like Jets were not good.
So
See,
was it given to him by Sigourney Weaver? Is that why that's a joke?
Maybe.
See, I don't like football, so I just keep thinking to the Winnipeg Jets.
This would have been the era with the Richard Refrigerator Perry, like, so they at least had that like one really good famous player.
Okay, and they would. I don't either.
He's the guy from the Coca-Cola commercial, the famous Coca-Cola commercial, where the kid gave him a Coke and then he
the grab a Coke and the smile.
I know what you're talking about.
I only know that commercial because it was in the movie Miracle.
Oh.
There you go.
I actually know you have no idea, do you, Mike?
Nope.
Oh, shut up! I hate you.
No, one thing that I do want to mention, like when they go in the slime river, and all of a sudden when they get out of the slime river, you have that whole scene where they're fighting each other. And just because they take off their clothes, all of a sudden they're fine. Like they were all covered in goo completely. Like I feel like taking off clothes wouldn't have affected it.
Well,
soak through their...
Clearly, you've never taken off your clothes after being covered in slime, Mike.
I'll say. I just want to know it wouldn't soak through because they were wearing rain slicker, like they're wearing full body like rain suits, but it did get on their heads. Yes.
Yeah, it's all over their faces and stuff.
But still, they got less of it on them by taking off the rain suits.
Okay.
But
I think it's fair.
like, I'm better.
It was way too quick.
Yeah.
I think the slime works like a drop's not going to do anything. Like a face full isn't going to do anything, but a full body dosage, like that's enough.
Okay.
We do see later. I mean, the slime can be positive or negative. At that point in the movie, they've said, "Oh, it's it feeds on negative emotions," but then later they show that it also feeds on positive emotions. So I don't know.
Yeah, because obviously the whole city of New York will band together to be positive for once.
Yeah, I think it's a silly like 80s comedy, but I thought it was. I love this movie. It's got its little issues, but I don't take it too serious.
We've been talking a lot of shit, but I to be fair, I also like this movie too. I enjoyed it.
Movie.
I mean, I'm still going to talk shit about it, but my rating will be different. But like,
I mean,
it's still fun.
We can pick it apart and be like, "This makes no sense," but it's still, to me, it's still a good movie because me and my dad watch it all. I think that's why I can still quote lines.
I've seen this movie exactly 2 times, and one of them was in preparation for this. So,
okay, I've seen it 2 times in the last week in preparation for this, and I've seen it. I feel like I saw it a bunch on TV because I remember very little bits and pieces of it, so it probably would have been something I would have caught on TV here and there. Oh, and I finally get one joke, which a friend of mine on one Facebook group, for a long time, his profile picture was Vigo with a cap. And I never understood that. I'm like, okay. And then finally, when we watched this movie, I'm like, now I get that joke. He's like, we'll paint a cat right there.
He misses his kitty.
James passing that around at one point, yeah.
He's got Carpathian kitten envy. He misses his kitty.
Carpathian kitten.
That's what he says. I know. So my background with this movie is when I was a kid, we had this on VHS since I was like 6. Oh, it came out when I was 6, so it was probably when I was like 7 or 8. We had this on VHS recorded off of like a free HBO trial. That's what most of our movies were as a kid. We just had a wall of VHS from those free HBO trials. And I have probably seen this movie at least, I would say, north of 40 times. But I haven't seen, until yesterday, I had not seen it since the 1990s.
Oh, wow.
So I grew up watching this movie a lot. And then the original Ghostbusters is one of my favorite comedies ever. And I didn't see that till I was grown in my 20s. So this movie I had already seen dozens of times before I ever saw the original.
So I'm trying to think. I saw this one for the first time when I went to the store, saw a Ghostbusters 1 and 2 DVD box set, and went, oh, there's a second Ghostbusters? And bought the DVD box set.
That's great. But,
I mean, that's fair. I mean,
so
this movie is not talked about compared to the first one.
So I hadn't seen the movie in like 25 years, and I watched it yesterday, and I was sitting there saying lines as they happened the entire movie, and it just came back immediately. But then there were certain jokes that I got this time that flew over my head, like some of the sexual innuendo and stuff.
Oh God, yes.
It's a real travesty that Ron Jeremy isn't in the second one.
It's just really clear at one point that Egon is fucking the slime. Like He definitely is.
Oh yeah, there was that joke where they make a comment like, "Well, you're not sleeping with it, right?" He's like,
And he's like, "Oh, it's always the quiet ones." Yeah.
Except when he like stutters, all I can imagine is Egon having the slime like wrapped in a little blankie and snuggling it in his bed.
Yeah, that
That's
might
not
be,
what they were
that might
referencing.
be all-
But yes,
that
I go
might-
with that.
that might be all that's happening.
I was thinking American Pie, apple pie joke, but
I wonder if that's like the in-universe canon for how he got sick and died in the third one.
Oh God.
well, I think in the in-universe, this movie never happened.
Got a slime.
Oh,
in his
really?
belly.
That's all I mean, I don't know.
No,
but that's how I always
think
feel.
I think it does, but it's like the black sheep that no one wants to talk about. Like,
Yeah, no, I love this movie. I mean, it's definitely better than any of the recent Ghostbusters movies. Like,
I don't know. I like that.
I like Afterlife too.
I like that. I
Yeah.
think it was just because it.
Yeah.
It's also not the same exact movie as these two or the reboot. So
I never
Yeah.
saw the. I'm a,
Oh, I'm going to now. Now that we covered this, I'm going to try to make myself cover the reboot.
so if you're gonna watch the reboot, really just watch it just for Chris Hemsworth.
Oh, it's the you know, I haven't seen that one, so I can't say that
It's
yeah.
It's pure shit, but Chris Hemsworth is the greatest thing to happen to that movie.
He's the Gina, right?
Yeah,
He's Annie Pot.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
he is
Yeah,
great.
Gina Melnick. Yeah.
He
Yes, Annie Pot.
I'll just tease you a little bit with that one. At one point, Chris Hemsworth he wears glasses, and at one point he goes and rubs his eye through his glasses, and everyone's like, "What are you do? Like, what? You don't have lenses in those?" And he's like, "Oh, like they always got dirty and stuff, so I just took them out." So he just wears the frames because he has to wear glasses, but took the lenses out of the glasses.
what?
That's a good joke. Yeah, that's a good joke.
Okay.
He is amazing in that movie. And then there's a deleted scene. It's a 5-minute dance sequence that they cut from the movie, and it's just Chris Hemsworth dancing. It's truly glorious
What?
because there was already like 4 minutes of Chris Hemsworth dancing in the movie.
I sound
In
like
the
Chris
same
Hemsworth's the
scene,
best
like
thing
in
about
the
that movie.
same scene. Like it's one long scene that they cut 5 minutes out of.
Oh, I thought you meant they just cut the dancing scene. I was like,
No. They trimmed the dancing scene, and that's just what we got left with.
well, now we gotta go see Chris Hemsworth dance.
I do want to see the movie at some point.
Does he
I
have
just don't want to
his
pay
shirt-
for it.
Does he have?
Yeah, no, I'd like to see it. Yeah,
You got Thor for that.
I'll give it a shot. I love Chris Hemsworth. He's really funny, and he's not making movies anymore. So
Yeah, not for a while.
Yeah.
Oh, one character we haven't talked about yet that's in the... we haven't talked about Rick Moranis in this movie yet.
I love.
And
Yeah.
yeah, he's great in this.
he is. He really is. I mean, I like the fact that, like, you know, in the end, he finally suits up as a Ghostbuster. I mean, he has some good scenes.
He's the hero at the end. Yeah, everybody's like, you know, like he's like, I did it, and they're all, you know, like hugging him and stuff, and he gets Gina. She's just like super horny for him, and
I love Gina. I love Annie
yeah,
Potts.
I do too. I had a big thing for her as a kid. I grew up like watching Designing Women with my mom.
Ooh, I was
all
just
the
gonna say
time.
that. I love her.
So
Women.
I've had a crush on her since I was like 5. So I loved her in this movie. It's like when she has the trailer line, yes, they're back. You know.
But it's she has like the best voice. Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Can I help you?
Ghostbusters, can I help you? Yes, they're back.
She's amazing.
Yeah, she is. She's
I want like a lot of people say they want Morgan Freeman to narrate their life. I want Gina to narrate my life.
Yes.
I mean, I really do enjoy that scene where you have her where, like, she just, you know, is all, like, you're saying, all hot and bothered for him. Like, I think it's just funny. It's really good.
I want to have a child of my own. Wait, tonight? Oh,
Tonight?
okay, let's go.
Or the fact that, like, his hair is all messed up, and it reminds me of the first movie. It's the same exact look he has when he's possessed.
Yes.
So I just thought that was really cool.
I love that. Tonight. That's such a good line. Just oh.
So there's a lot of, I mean, there are good stuff. One scene that I particularly really liked a lot is when you do have like all the ghosts start showing up later on, the city's really going to hell.
The montage and the ladies, the fur coat. I like called my son into the room to watch that scene of the fur coat coming to life, and then it goes running down the street. I love it. I love it.
Start biting her, and she's like,
the Titanic shows up.
I love the Titanic.
That was the best thing ever.
Because even back then, I think whenever I would have first seen this movie, I always was a fan of the Titanic stuff and like what happened with that, and then seeing that in this movie being referenced, and they're like, "Well, better late than never," and you just see all these ghost people getting off the ship. Like, I just really like that.
Yeah, exactly. I was in Odyssey of the Mind in 5th grade, and I wrote the play that we did, and it was about the Titanic, and so like, and that was the James Cameron Titanic movie came out when I was in high school. So that was like 5 years before that. And so yeah, I was like, I knew about the Titanic when I was a kid, and then seeing it in this movie, I was like, oh yeah, from the Ghostbusters too. Yeah, no, I know about the Titanic.
I really am the youngest one here. The James Cameron movie came out when I was 1 year old, or maybe 0. What year did it come out?
No, I'm shut up, all of you. I'm the oldest
Kerry's
one here. No,
I'll be 40 in April.
Yeah, see?
Okay.
I'll be 41 in February. I beat him by a year.
And Adam, I know that you said you got to get going here soon.
Yeah.
You're good. So we're just gonna keep going, but I wanted to. So Adam, what is your shelf stacker box for this? We'll do it a little differently than normal. Just for him.
Let's see. Stack.
Okay.
Stack.
Hey, not all right. Thought you were going to say box.
No, because it's not a pile of hot garbage. It's just a pile of garbage.
That you could watch occasionally if you.
Yeah, if it's on, I'll watch it. Like,
I get that.
Okay.
All right. No, I'm glad you didn't hate it.
Yeah.
I always feel bad when I get people on to, especially something they've never seen or never played before, and they're like, "This is trash."
I do that to Jeff all the time, so it's fine.
I thought you were gonna say do it to Nick.
No, Nick's existence is torture enough for himself. So,
well, thank you for joining us, Adam. And where can people find you at?
You can find me at You Hate to See It, wherever you've listened to podcasts. We're on Apple, Spotify, everywhere. We also have a Patreon, so check that out and get a bunch of bonus content. It's You Hate to See It.
All right, and there'll be a link in the show notes to your podcast. And thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. Right, and one thing I want to mention, like we were talking about earlier before you were able to join us, Kerry, we kind of went to the movie and we mentioned a lot of different things, but feel free, any scene that you want to bring up, I'd gladly get your opinion on what you thought of different things.
Yeah, so one of my favorite scenes in it that I always think about is the Scoleri brothers, the courtroom scene.
I love the Scoleri brothers.
There's really only one big action scene in this movie, and that's it. Ghostbusters 1 has the hotel scene, and then later it's got the big fight with Zool and the Marshmallow Man. And this one has that, and then the fight with Vigo's not much really a fight, really, not really. It's more of a talk for the most part, But they've got this big action set piece, and I remember watching like a Corridor Crew episode where they showed how they did the special effects for it, and it was because it's mostly practical, Well, I mean, it's pretty much all practical, right? Because and which is why I like movies from back then. Is I like the practical effects when they're done well, and this one is really good.
I like practical effects as well too.
I know you do.
I get upset with everything CGI. It upsets me.
No, I feel you. I feel similarly. It depends, but yeah, I prefer.
It does depend.
So how do you feel about CGI racing on a desert track for no reason in your movie? How do you feel about that? I haven't heard yet.
CGI racing. Oh, are you talking about
pod racing?
Oh, that's one of the few okay parts in that movie. So
that's the best scene in that whole movie.
It's like no, it's not the best. Best scene is Duel of the Fates, but which is a lot of CGI. But but yeah, I really like that scene. I love the judge, and he's like, "It's the Scoleri brothers. I tried him for murder. I give him the chair."
That's probably why they're in electric chairs.
And they're floating around in electric chairs. They look like something from like the Disneyland's Haunted Mansion.
Okay, I can see
ride.
That.
Like they remind me of the ghosts on Haunted Mansion. Like they're cartoonish. They're like huge. Also, if you look, they're like 12 feet tall.
Which is funny because half the ghosts are cartoonish and half look like real people. Like Slimer is just, I don't know where that came from. Like, was that supposed to be a person?
Went into a blender, maybe? I got nothing.
Yeah, I think like the way if I was trying to like make a serious headcanon for it, it's like the more far removed they are from humanity, then the more like grotesque and weird they become.
Okay, that makes sense.
So like fairly recently dead people are mostly human looking, and then Slimer's probably ancient.
Jogger.
I like the jogging.
I love the jogger, and Bill Murray's sitting there in disguise.
And you pull him into a trap, and that's just so rude. Like he wasn't hurting anybody.
He was scaring people, but that's their problem.
No, yes, but he wasn't purposely scaring people. It's not like he was like, "Rah!"
Hey, they had to get work, so that's what it was. I mean,
I'm wondering who paid them for that. Is that the city? Is that the like Public Works? Parks and Recreation.
Well, yeah, that's a good.
That's how I took it. Probably like the city.
Well, I don't know, because they're not on good terms with the city at that point in the movie. So
they didn't pay him
no.
last time.
Good point. Oh,
I guess they're not. Bad.
What is your opinion of the music in this movie? I kind of talked about it earlier that I didn't care for the new song.
The new song's fine. I don't like the rap at the end of the movie. That one's a little dumb. But I like the song from the montage that we were just talking about. So you have two montages. You have the montage when things are going well, and that's with that's the one with the jogger, and it's like, well, I guess we're gonna have to take a fall. They're like playing that, and they play it again later. They play like a downbeat version of it for the second montage. I like that. I like the music. I can't remember what it's called, but the getting me higher and higher.
The Statue of Liberty stuff?
Bobby Darin or whatever it was. Yeah, for the Statue of Liberty, but also for the toaster scene.
I did laugh when he pulls out the Nintendo gamepad.
I don't
know. It's the NES Advantage.
What don't you understand?
How is that supposed to control?
Supposedly, yes.
But how? Like, did they wire it somehow?
They must have slimed it somehow. I got nothing.
She just knows you press the big red button, she walks.
Well, I mean, she's possessed.
The other black button, and she smashes the top.
That's never explained.
I mean, I figure it's it's like psychically linked with the person, and the NES Advantage is more for Ray. It's to give Ray something to focus his like.
Okay.
It's like in Magic. You build your circle and all that. That's them doing the slime, and then you have your focus, like your crystal or whatever, to help you focus your mind on your intent on the spell.
The controller.
Yeah, so the controller is his crystal, so to speak.
Okay, I'll give you that.
That makes more sense.
I'm getting real serious headcanon.
It's fine. I do like that there's two, I think there's two Mario Brothers references in this movie too, like with Venkman, like, oh, we could play Mario, and I'm like, it's funny.
No, it's what is his name? The nerdy guy, the accountant.
Rick Moranis' character?
Yeah, Rick Moranis. What is his character's name?
I can't remember the name.
It's him. It's him that says that he suggested when they're babysitting, and she says the baby's asleep. He's like, well, we could watch TV or we could play Super Mario Brothers. He says Mario because it's from New York.
It makes sense. I mean, and it's not. It's very. I mean, this is '89, so Nintendo just came out.
Say it. I listened to people on a podcast like yesterday saying Mario Brothers left and right.
How?
I don't know, but it's a lot. People from like New York say Mario.
Yeah. Okay.
If they're not serious gamers. No, Mario is the American Italian way of saying Mario. I think.
Okay.
Like the Jersey Shore way of saying Mario. Those kinds of Italians.
I do like that type of stuff, and it's nice seeing Rick Moranis in another movie. Like everything with him, I thought was good with this, and
every little thing with him was great. When she zips him up in Egon's extra thing, and she is so horny. Which you remember in the first movie. The first movie, she's really horny for Egon. Right? And then she zips him up in Egon's jumpsuit, and she's like, I think you look great. Powerful.
That's
whatever.
Egon's jumpsuit?
It does, yeah. It says...
It shouldn't fit, but...
No, says, did it shrink in the washer?
Yeah. It says it on the name tag says Spangler.
Man, I missed that.
Yeah, it says Spangler. So...
Okay.
Yeah, I love, there's this joke... So both of these movies have really good joke writing. There's joke, and they're real fast, and everyone's performing them really well, deadpan, like perfectly. Like in the beginning when Egon is when Egon is at the psychology experiment lab or whatever, and he's like, let's see what happens when we take away the pump. But there's a joke there. He's got this thing, and he's like, he's got the couple arguing in the room, and he's saying, I'm trying to see if people's emotions can affect their environment. And he has this thing, and he's scanning, and it's like, it beeps in a certain way, and he goes, ooh, interesting, right? Then Dana is like asking about Bill Murray, and she's like, does he ever talk about me? And she has her back to him, and he hesitates and goes, no. And then he scans her he scans her after he says no. and it lights up the same way it lit up before, and he gets this like, oh, interesting look on his face. Like, oh, please look. So I never caught that he was like lying to her on purpose to make her sad so that he could test it.
So he could test her?
So he could test, so he could test to see if it affected the environment.
I felt bad for the people in that scene because, like, he's like, oh, yeah, I lied to them. And I'm like, you just made them wait for 3 hours for nothing.
He said he said it was 92 degrees.
Oh, God.
Also,
they did not look hot enough for
No, they did not look hot enough for 92 degrees. I'm like, no.
I would have been having my shirt off and like, Michael, I gotta get out of here. It's too hot.
No,
92 was ridiculous. They should have said it. But I was like, 92 degrees? What?
That's the point where I'm like, I'm gonna puke. That's too hot.
Yeah. I mean, that is,
just a weird. I do like that he's successful in this, like that, because I mean, one thing about this movie is that they're all none of them are really. Well, I guess Venkman's successful enough; he has his own TV show, so like,
yeah, he has a cable TV show. Ray owns his own bookstore, which they
never say about Winston in this movie, like what he's doing.
He just shows back up. He's like, all right, I'm back.
That's why I think, like in Afterlife, they make a reference to how he was like a businessman, and I'm glad they had that and give him his due in that movie.
Yeah, it is sad because in the first movie he just shows up later. And he's just a hired hand, and they're like asking if he, believes in ghosts and stuff. And he's like, if there's a steady paycheck in it, I'll believe whatever you say. And then in this one, they have their big triumphant moment and their big action set piece in the court scene. And then he doesn't show up until after that. So he doesn't even get to be in any, it's kind of sad. But he does get his one thing, which is the train that goes around, and his hair's all standing on end.
I love that scene.
And he's like, "Did you see if it was the number whatever line?" And he's like, "I missed it. I missed it."
And also, like that scene right before that, where they see all the floating heads because it's supposed to be Vigo, like the murders that he did before when he was in power. Yeah. That scene is still freaky. Like it's because you can tell. I mean, they're all it's all prosthetic type stuff that they just made threw together. Like it looks real enough. Like it's creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, not like but it's not like CG.
It looked like Halloween decorations.
I was gonna say it looked like something you buy at Spirit Halloween.
I don't like it either way.
It's like Spirit Halloween's.
Yeah, that's probably exactly.
I remember it being scary when I was
Halloween, and they're like shove it down a stick, mess up the hair.
I don't know. It's a creepy scene, and I think it clicked more the second we watched this. As I said earlier in the show, we watched this movie twice in this last week.
Because he got our dates mixed.
Yes. So I watched it twice, and it's like I don't think it clicked to the second time how it's supposed to be what Vigo was doing, because they have like that one small scene where they're looking at the computer and they look up like what Vigo did, which I laughed my ass off because the internet wasn't around in '89. I want to say, right?
No, it was. It was Usenet. It was Usenet. It wasn't. The World Wide Web wasn't around in '89.
Okay,
there was the kind of internet that someone like Egon would be on was around since like 85, 86. So
okay. I did like how, like, again, information isn't as easy to, to attain at that time, so, like, you can get away with some stuff, and I did like that.
I'd rather see them go in that library that they keep going into. And bringing up a big book going, ooh, there he is.
Well, in this movie, they're going into the museum, but, they could have gone to Ray's bookstore and found it there.
There you go.
I would have liked a little bit more connection with Vigo, too, like, why they're fighting, like, more about him, like, other than his whole plot is just, I'm going to get a baby and possess the baby. Because even if you possess a baby, you're still a baby.
No, but he's gonna be reborn in the baby's body, and then the doctor is gonna take care of him.
I guess
he said we'll be a family. She'll be your wife and my mother. So like they're gonna. Yes, she'll be ours, right?
I do like how the whole motive we talked about.
To you, mother to me, or something like that.
Earlier, the whole motive of Giannis, even I think he's being controlled, is that he wanted Sigourney Weaver. It's like, okay, I'll go along with your plan. I get the woman,
Yeah,
right?
he's a creep. He's a creep. They showed he was a creep from the beginning. He's trying to, he's hitting on this woman that works for him part-time. He goes to her house, though he's possessed by the point that he goes to her house, but still.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, so he's supposed to get the baby, right? But then he doesn't get the baby. A ghost comes and gets the baby.
Oh, that's supposed to be him.
That's supposed to be him.
Yeah,
So
he's like,
he got like
somehow he turns into a ghost monster, gets the baby, and then and looks like an old woman from the.
If you look super close, it has his face, and Sigourney Weaver even says, "That was Janos. That was Janos."
Even though the part that's so weird is that
you're
that's
right.
never like in all the times that you see it, he doesn't have powers or anything really.
Well, no, they show his powers.
He goes after him.
They do show him have powers one other time. Whenever there's the power outage and he goes to her apartment, then he walks down the hallway and has flashlight eyes.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, he walks after she closes the door. He turns and walks away, and he lights up the hallway with like very, very cheesy looking flashlight eyes.
Okay.
It's like reddish flashlight beams coming out of his eyes, but they're like clearly added in post, just painted on to the front to the film, so it has that like real fake look to it. But it's still
Okay. Oh,
And that may not be in the, because you know what, that maybe not be in the version that they have streaming.
Oh, they don't have the streaming well, I mean, it's on Amazon. You can rent it or buy it. There's nowhere you can stream it as part of your subscription. I actually pulled out the DVD that I've had for years.
Yeah,
No,
I bought
you did,
it.
yes, but I did.
I bought it on Amazon because I don't have a VCR, so it's like I do. I bought my mom a VCR for Christmas, and I could have like gone to my mom's house and watched it.
Well, I mean, no, maybe this is a different cut. Like, I mean, 'cause that happens all the time with movies. But no,
But,
we hadn't.
That definitely is in the version of the movie that I grew up watching. Is he has the flashlight eyes? I can see it right now.
Said that. I think I remember that.
Yeah, but I don't. I did not see. I was
fell
actually.
asleep.
I don't remember seeing it this time, but I might have been looking down or looking away or something. But
brief.
Yeah, it's not a long scene.
it is very brief. It's like 2 seconds of him turning away from her door, and he's in the dark hallway, and he lights it up with red beams from his eyes. But other than that, yeah. So I was always like, I wasn't sure if he turned into the ghost woman or if he like summoned her or what. But I guess
Yeah, he's supposed to be.
He turned into her.
I suppose he could have summoned her, and it still could have looked. I don't know. There's very unclear. I
His
didn't
powers
get
were
the
unclear,
fact that
yeah.
it was him
Yeah,
until she was like, "That was Janos," and I'm like, "Oh,
you can barely tell. It really looks like.
It is like the shape of his face for sure. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, "So when do we go start kidnapping babies?" Like,
Yeah, it's a little odd. One thing we hadn't talked about yet is the stuff with Vigo near the end, like the whole fight with a little bit of fight that they do with him. Like, I thought that was kind of like I didn't really understand. Like, you have Venkman just starts insulting him, and so when I watched the second time, I'm like, okay, did something happen? He's insulting him, but his insulting didn't do anything at all. It just got them in more trouble. It was all because people started singing for some reason out in the city.
No, it gets him to stop the ritual.
Oh, that's what he was doing? Okay.
He's just trying to distract. He's trying to stop him from possessing the baby. So he's just like doing anything he can to get his attention away. And then the people outside that then weakens him
and so
because he feeds on hate.
Venkman starts insulting him. When Venkman starts insulting him, it hits his ego, and that distracts him.
Yeah, and then he takes time to torture them for it. He is sitting there torturing them for it, and then the people outside start singing, and that weakens him enough that they can get loose and slime him and all that.
Well, why didn't they do that before? Why didn't they sing to him before?
I don't know. Like they came in, and Vigo's not there when they come in.
No, he's not in the painting. That's right.
Yeah, they rappel down and they go to rescue the baby, and the vacuum tubes come and start capturing them and stuff. and then Vigo comes out. Yeah, but I love when Janos is like, "You will serve, Vigo. You will." And Bill Murray's like, "All right, I've had enough of this guy. Slime him, please."
And then he's just like, "I feel so wonderful. I feel so great."
Yeah, it is good stuff. But yeah, I was trying to think of another big scene in the movie. This movie's also definitely goes for Dana's sexiness, which so did the first movie, but this one, I don't know if it ups it exactly. In the first movie, she's just when she's possessed, by the is she yeah, well no, but she's not Zool, she's the Keymaster, or
Oh yeah, Zool's the guy
or
that comes after.
she's the gatekeeper, and then Rick
Moranis
Moranis is the Keymaster. That's right. Yeah, so she's possessed by the gatekeeper or whatever, and so she's like super horny in that and dresses real sexy, you know. But that's it.
Underwear, pretty much.
Yeah, well, she's in like a lacy or like a filmy kimono, and very very risque. In this one, there's when the bathtub scene, she takes off her top for that, and then there's another scene where she, you know, when she's trying to discourage Bill Murray, and she comes out in her towel, barely wrapped around her, glistening from the shower, and then doesn't go to change. She just continues to walk around and talk to him while holding this towel barely on her. I was like, oh, this is good. This is good stuff. I see now why I'm attracted to Sigourney Weaver as a 39-year-old. It's because I watched this when I was 6 and it imprinted.
Yeah.
So yeah, still hot. Yeah.
Oh, another thing I found like weird that with the stuff like with go back to Vigo, what I want to mention, like when he possesses Ray at the very end and how Ray's face gets
I love that part.
Slime him.
Yeah.
And one thing I didn't realize, because I've done this in the completely wrong order when it comes to Ghostbusters, we first did the Ghostbusters video game on the show, which is essentially
a sequel, right?
Yeah, it's essentially the third movie. What would have been the third movie had we gotten one with the original cast?
Right, exactly. I've heard it's really really good.
It's a good game, and in that game, one of the weapons that you have is the slime gun, and I didn't understand that. And when I went and watched, like, oh, okay, now it makes sense.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, it's positively charged slime, which I assume it's just the slime that Egon's been fucking.
Yeah.
Like he's got it real happy, and so it's got positive energy in it. But I do, all jokes aside, I like the idea of that the slime is they're saying it's pure concentrated evil, but that's because, you know, that it can be both. Like you can charge it with positive energy as well. So that's how they make the Statue of Liberty walk around. And so one thing I thought about is like, all right, so are they gonna are they gonna re-slime the Statue of Liberty and walk it back to Liberty Island, or is it just gonna be
yeah.
I mean, you do see it in the very end of the movie. It's back where it's supposed to, well, you know, where it actually is. So.
Oh, it is.
Like,
okay.
On the thing at the end, or is it just there?
It's just there because they're literally filming in real life for it. You know, not.
Yeah. So presumably they walked it back there and then had it like climb up out of the water. I also always wonder, is New York Harbor like that shallow that it could walk up, you know, with the head above the water like that?
But how is it going to get out of the water?
I mean, if the water slants
it's got to climb. It's got to climb. It's got to like pull itself up.
Oh.
Like getting out of a pool.
Okay. That's just all weird.
That's going to be hard. She's kind of heavy.
See, they should have, at the end of the movie, they should have shown that it was still there at the museum and be like, all right, so what are we going to do about that?
That would have been a funny cutscene.
And then
that would have been funny.
Then in the the later movies, they could just like randomly have, that in the background as they're driving through New York. There's the Statue of Liberty leaning over a museum. the Metropolitan Museum.
Yeah, I feel like it wouldn't have, because they don't reference this movie.
No, but that would be perfect.
Mad, like Ghostbusters.
Because like even in Afterlife, there's no reference of Vigo. They reference a lot to do with the first movie. They don't mention Vigo, nothing at all.
Because I think this movie is not well remembered, and I don't think most people saw it. And I feel like the new movie I feel like Afterlife is really pushing on people's nostalgia for the first movie.
Yeah. Like 100%. I mean,
which is my issue is I don't like nostalgia stuff, which is funny because I love this movie, and this movie is very much like beat for beat. It is very similar to the first movie.
Yeah, that's what Adam was saying.
But I feel like it's. But I don't feel like it's. People say it's like, oh, it's just the same movie. It's like, well, no, it's following a formula, but it's very much a different story. There's different. A lot of different stuff happens in it. Like they don't get. Them getting committed, and the scene where they're in the mental institution and they're explaining the plot of the movie to the doctor, and the doctor is just like, oh, okay. And
this is not helping your cause. I mean, Bill Murray's just like, don't look at me. I think they're crazy.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I love that scene. I just love that scene where the doctor is just like, I can't believe that I'm listening to. This is ridiculous.
No wonder they're in here.
Yeah.
Any last scenes you want to mention before we go to Shelf Stacker Box?
I just think Vigo is awesome. In spite of having not seen this movie since, in like 20 something years, I will just randomly out of nowhere several times per year go, I'm Vigo, the sorrow of Moldavia, of Carpathia, the scourge of Moldavia. On a mountain of death, I sat in a castle of blood. I sat on a throne, or on a mountain of bones in a castle of blood. I sat on a throne of death. What was shall be. What is shall be no more. I love that whole thing. That is just like, it's so cool. He's such a cool villain.
Do they ever reference how he got trapped in that painting?
No.
No, see, I figured he put himself in the painting to become immortal. Oh no, he didn't.
I think he was immortal, sort of.
Well,
Yeah,
I guess
they
the
said
idea
how he
is that,
died.
yeah, because he was killed, or they talk about how he was killed, drawn and quartered and everything else like that. But
He was shot, drawn and quartered,
He was kind
hanged.
of like a vampire, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's like what they did to Vlad the Impaler. It's like they killed him a bunch of different ways to make sure he is really dead.
Fatty
And,
Impaler was just yeah, I guess to them he probably wasn't just a human, so
well, no, I don't know if that's true, but it's what they say, and like
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean,
I feel like there's a movie where they said that about Vlad the Impaler, that they did all that stuff to him. Or
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if I remember right, that guy was a freaking huge murderer too. So,
well, yeah, or
he's
or
the one
like
that inspired the
or like
Dracula story.
Or like Rasputin, right? They shot him, and drowned him, and hanged him, or whatever. So
they
like that.
shot him, they poisoned him, they drowned him, and his cause of death was drowning, not the shooting or the poison.
Yeah,
He just wanted to make sure he was really dead. Would they chop off his head too?
and when they chopped off Vigo's head before his head died, it said,
Because his head had to die.
and he has the best last words ever. He says, "Death is but a doorway, time is but a window. I'll be back."
I'll be back.
I know, because Terminator already was out at this point too.
I'll be back.
If I remember,
They
if I'm-
had to say I'll be back. It should have been like I shall return or something like that.
Yeah. But what I'll say is, "I'll be back" is in Terminator, but it didn't become like the big Arnold line till Terminator 2, which came out after this. So.
Oh, okay.
I still think it should have been I shall return. Like I'll be back. Doesn't sound like that was like thousands of years ago that he would have said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a more modern saying to me.
Agreed.
But still,
And again, as Adam was saying earlier, this movie was reshot a whole bunch in the last 4 months before it released. So hey, who knows?
but anyway, I figured that he like had some sort of cast a spell to put himself into the painting. If he dies, his soul will go into the painting or whatever.
Yeah, I would have liked more explanation, but that's just me being me. I like to have like.
I feel like if Telltale made a game version of this movie, then we would get some backstory on Vigo. Some more backstory. There'd be like a book you could read. You could read that book they looked up on the internet.
I'd read that.
Oh, and one last thing that I kind of want to go out on a sour note, but I have to mention it because whenever I watch 80s or movies in the 80s or 90s in New York, I always, because they always have the scene of the Twin Towers, and they do in this at the very end of this movie, and it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I always forget. I don't forget about it, but like I don't think about it, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, like it just it brings it to my attention.
That why?
Because it was something. Because again, it's a beautiful at the very end of this movie when they're on the Statue of Liberty and you see that and it shows the Twin Towers. It's just like it just makes me remember the greatness of of just how much that was a New York thing. Just cool, sad but cool to see it in at the time. Yeah, that's what I say.
Yeah.
All right, then we'll go to shelf, stack, or box. And Tiffany, why don't you go first?
It will go on the shelf for me because it's very nostalgic. I watched it with my dad, and I think we probably watched it more on TV than we did like on DVD. Every time I was on TV, we had to sit and watch it. But I enjoyed it as much as the first one, and I still enjoyed it when I watched it. Apparently, I remembered more than I thought I did.
All right, and I'll go next. I'm just gonna put this in the shelf. I came into it with no expectations. I thought it was supposed to be a crappy movie. I didn't remember. I did, because I've always had bad expectations. People always talk about this.
That's so rude.
And I left happy. I'm like, this movie's entertaining. I watched it twice and wasn't bored. I laughed for the most part, and I enjoyed it. It's maybe not as good as the first movie, but it's still a good movie. It doesn't deserve the hate that it gets. So it's gonna go on the shelf. And what about you, Kerry?
Oh yeah, shelf for sure. I'm really glad that I came on this because I only have it on VHS, and so I bought it on Amazon Prime. So now this can go on my regular Halloween rotation from now on with the first movie, which I do have on DVD. But yeah, no, I love this movie, and I was afraid, based on how much the internet hates this movie, that I was gonna like find out that my nostalgia was, clouding my judgment and it was actually bad. But no, I thought it was great. Honestly, like, I think the first movie is probably better, but I think I might like the second movie a little bit more.
You probably have also that nostalgic for it.
I do, right. I do have the nostalgia for it. I mean, I've seen the first movie a lot. It's one of my favorite comedies, but I really enjoyed watching this. I was laughing. I kept like calling my kid into the room and like saying like, here, watch this part, watch this part, watch this part.
I want to say they almost purposely make fun of that.
Yeah, they do. And there's a few times.
Versus, like, the first movie, they had that, but now they're like, okay, now we're going to make fun of what we had.
Yeah.
There's a few times where you can see Ivan Reitman and Dan Aykroyd, like, almost breaking, and they'll be in the background, like, laughing at what the other, like, trying not to laugh at what the other person is saying, which I love.
Bill Murray ad-libs most of it, so that was probably part of it.
That's because Bill Murray's an idiot.
But he was a comedy genius, though. I mean, I know he's canceled now, and with good reason, and that's good and everything. But it doesn't mean that he wasn't funny. Like he was.
No, I don't like.
I grew up watching Saturday Night Live, and like Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd on Saturday Night Live, like. And, along with some other people that aren't in this movie. I'm surprised Ivan Reitman, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I found out that he wrote for Saturday Night Live. Surprised he wasn't on it. But yeah, like I love it. I love it.
Okay.
Top to bottom.
And I don't know, I found it, as a game my mom found part, I found it funny that this is the last, out of the original three stuff, or, including the game, that this is the last, I did completely the wrong order. The game, the first movie, and then the second movie. So I find that kind of funny.
You always go out of order.
Less now.
Yeah, you often do, though. That's for sure.
I mean, it was also back in 2020 when we covered the episode, the game, and the first movie. So if you want to listen to those episodes, episode 56, the Ghostbusters video game, and Ghostbusters 1984 is film 11. Because I had to put 1984 because at the time there were two Ghostbusters movies already. So because 2016 is called just Ghostbusters also.
Are we gonna cover Afterlife? I want to be.
Oh yeah, of course. I got to do 2016 next, but I'll do Afterlife too at some point.
No, I don't want to be.
You don't have to. But I do need to see it.
I ruined my nostalgia.
And Kerry, where can people find you at?
Hey, I'm on Twitch, Kerrooseta, KEROOSETA. Find me there playing video games and occasionally repairing and modifying video game consoles.
All right, and thank you for joining us midway through. I'm glad you were able to make it.
Yeah, sorry I came in late, but I'm glad that I did come in.
Hey, it worked out. You got to be the fourth Ghostbuster that just shows up, misses part of the movie. Just like Winston.
That was me.
Again, I just, it worked for the joke, but yes. All right, and thank you. And if you enjoyed this, episode, you can catch over 400 other episodes of what we've done on Games My Mom. We do movies, comics, TV shows. We do all sorts of stuff. Go check out our giant catalog. No, I can't. And we do have a Patreon. By the time you're hearing this, it should be out right before the New Year's. You still have a couple more days to vote in the Mike's Christmas gift poll. If we cover Venom, Let There Be Carnage, Eternals, Spider-Man 2002, or Amazing Spider-Man 2, you get to vote. Those $1, you can join our poll. We also have a Discord. You can join our Discord and chat with us, so please do that.
Vote for Carnage.
It's winning. And also want to give a shout out to my awesome intro and outro, courtesy of Helena at Hell Hatsphere. You can follow her on TikTok. And want to give a shout out to my buddy Bill Tucker, who did the MCU movies with me. Definitely go check him out. Start his own podcast, The Gamer Looks at 40. I think that's... Oh, and please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. Audio only, but we are on YouTube. I think that's everything I need to say, so we will see you guys all next time.
Can I say something real fast?
Please.
I just want to correct something. I kept calling Harold Ramis Ivan Reitman.
Oh, I was a little confused there.
It was Ivan Reitman is the director. Harold Ramis plays Egon, and I kept mixing their names up. So, sorry.
No, you're good. That's what I thought you meant. I was like, but I didn't correct you because I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So,
well, because he wrote Ghostbusters and Groundhog Day and Strike. He wrote all these like Bill Murray movies, and I got him mixed up with Ivan Reitman, who directed a bunch of Bill Murray movies. So that's
No, it's all good. Okay. So,
I was confused. I was like, wait, who is this guy?
Yeah, I was mixing up. Yeah, Harold Ramis. I mean, I don't know if he wrote this movie or not, but he wrote the first Ghostbusters. So
Harold Ramis wrote this movie with Dan Aykroyd also.
Oh, cool.
And I want to say after like the Ghostbusters video game is also, since we're still going, is kind of based on this what would have been the third script, which is also written by Harold Ramis. Part of it was, even though he had passed away by the time that game comes out, because he died in 2014.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Maybe it was
I didn't think it was that.
Depends on what version, but yes. It also recently got remastered, and then it was 2009. So no, he was still alive when it came out. So yeah, I'm pretty sure he was involved.
He wrote it. I'm looking. No, he did characters for it at least.
But I know it was based on a script by them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it has a bunch of different writers, but Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis are in there, then some other people.
Did they do?
Yeah, they did likeness and voices and everything. Because Bill Murray's in it too, and
the last movie I'm seeing that he wrote was Analyze That, which is
What? He wrote Analyze That.
He wrote Analyze This and Analyze That, and Bedazzled.
But I had no idea.
Okay. All right, I think that's everything. So
okay, sorry about that.
Oh, you're all good. See you guys next time.
All right, later. All right, bye-bye.